When people hear the name Bill Gates, they often think of the man who co-founded Microsoft, the billionaire who helped put a computer on every desk and in every home. But behind the polished image of a tech mogul lies a story of relentless curiosity, daring ambition, and later, a transformation from ruthless businessman to one of the most influential philanthropists the world has ever seen. Bill Gates was not destined for fame in the way Hollywood stars or political leaders are. He was a quiet, bookish boy from Seattle who fell in love with computers at a time when they were the size of rooms and considered little more than toys for scientists. While other kids played sports, Gates spent countless hours programming, driven not by grades or recognition, but by sheer fascination. That obsession would eventually change the course of history. With his childhood friend Paul Allen, Gates dropped out of Harvard to chase a dream that seemed ridiculous at the time, that one day every home and office would have a personal computer. He built Microsoft on vision, determination, and at times a ruthless competitiveness that earned him both admiration and criticism. By his early 30s, he was the youngest self-made billionaire in history. But Gates' story did not stop with Microsoft. In the second act of his life, he shifted from building a tech empire to tackling the world's most urgent problems: global health, poverty, and education. Through the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, he pledged to give away the majority of his vast fortune, redefining what it means to be a billionaire in the modern world. How did a shy computer geek become not only the richest man alive for decades, but also one of the most powerful voices in philanthropy? What lessons can we learn from a man who combined brilliance, ambition, and conscience to leave a mark on both technology and humanity? This is the story of Bill Gates, the boy who loved computers, the man who built Microsoft, and the philanthropist who chose to use his wealth to try to change the world.
William Henry Gates III, known to the world as Bill Gates, was born on October 28, 1955 in Seattle, Washington. His family was comfortable but not extravagantly wealthy. His father, William H. Gates Sr., was a respected attorney, while his mother, Mary Maxwell Gates, was a school teacher and later served on the board of several major organizations, including United Way International. From the very beginning, Bill grew up in an environment that valued education, ambition, and community service. Bill's childhood was marked by a restless intellect and a love for learning. His parents encouraged reading, and he devoured books on every subject, from science and history to encyclopedias. He would often stay up late at night, curled up with a book, losing himself in worlds of knowledge. Teachers quickly noticed his extraordinary intelligence. By the time he was in elementary school, Bill was testing far above his grade level in math and science. But brilliance often came with quirks. Bill was intensely competitive, sometimes argumentative, and endlessly curious. He challenged teachers when he thought he knew better, debated with classmates, and pushed boundaries. His parents, recognizing both his potential and his rebellious streak, decided to channel his energy into the best education possible. At the age of 13, they enrolled him at Lakeside School, an elite private preparatory school in Seattle. It was at Lakeside that Bill's destiny began to take shape. In 1968, the school purchased a computer terminal, a rarity at the time when computers were still massive and inaccessible to most. For Bill, it was love at first sight. He became obsessed, spending hours learning to program in BASIC, often skipping classes to write code. Along with other students, including his close friend Paul Allen, Bill dove deep into the mysteries of computing. So strong was his obsession that he and his friends exploited bugs in the system to gain more computer time. When caught, instead of being punished, they were offered a deal: help fix the glitches in exchange for free access to the computer. Bill eagerly accepted, gaining invaluable hands-on experience. By his mid-teens, he was already writing complex programs, including a scheduling system for the school that purportedly placed him in classes with mostly female students, an early glimpse of his playful cunning. At 15, Gates and Allen created their first business venture, TrafoData, a program that analyzed traffic flow data. They earned around $20,000, a modest sum, but proof that their skills could be monetized. For Bill, the project was thrilling, though imperfect. He later admitted the product wasn't a great success. Still, it gave him confidence that his passion for computers could lead to something bigger. Outside of computing, Bill's childhood was shaped by his family's expectations of excellence. His parents believed in achievement, but also in responsibility. Mary Gates in particular instilled in his son a sense of duty to give back. She often reminded him that privilege came with the obligation to serve others, a lesson that would later echo in his philanthropic pursuits. Despite his brilliance, Bill was not universally admired in his youth. His intensity and sharp tongue sometimes alienated classmates. He could be stubborn and socially awkward, traits that would follow him into adulthood. But those who knew him best saw the spark of genius, a young man who thought differently, who challenged assumptions, and who refused to accept limits. By the time he graduated from Lakeside in 1973, Bill had already set his sights on bigger dreams. He enrolled at Harvard University, one of the most prestigious schools in the world. There, he initially pursued mathematics and computer science, but true to form, Bill spent much of his time programming rather than attending lectures. Harvard provided him with resources, but his real education came from the opportunities outside the classroom, opportunities that would soon change his life forever. Bill Gates' childhood was not defined by hardship, but by curiosity, support, and access to opportunities that few had at the time. Yet, it was also defined by his unrelenting passion for computers, his willingness to push boundaries, and his belief that he could build something extraordinary. The boy who once hacked a school computer system for fun was on the verge of building a company that would reshape the digital age. When Bill Gates arrived at Harvard University in 1973, he seemed destined for a brilliant but conventional career. He was enrolled in pre-law at his parents' urging, but his true passion lay elsewhere. Most of his time was spent in the computer lab, programming late into the night, skipping lectures, and immersing himself in the emerging world of software. Harvard offered prestige, but Gates was restless. He wanted action, not theory. It was during his time at Harvard that Bill reunited with his childhood friend Paul Allen, who shared his obsession with computers. The two spent countless hours discussing the future of technology. Their conversations often circled around one radical idea. One day, computers would not just be massive machines in labs and corporations, but small, personal devices in every home and office. At the time, it was a dream that most dismissed as science fiction. The turning point came in 1975, when Gates and Allen saw the cover of Popular Electronics magazine, featuring the Altair 8800, one of the first microcomputers available to hobbyists. For most people, the Altair was a novelty. For Gates and Allen, it was the future. They immediately realized that this machine would need software, and they could provide it. Without even owning an Altair, Gates called the manufacturer MITS and boldly claimed they had developed a version of the basic programming language that could run on the computer. In truth, they hadn't written a single line of code yet, but in a feverish 8 weeks, working day and night, they built the program. When it ran successfully on the Altair, MITS agreed to license and distribute it. It was the birth of Microsoft, short for microcomputer software. In 1975, Gates made the fateful decision to drop out of Harvard. For his parents, it was a shock. They had dreamed of their son becoming a lawyer or academic, but Gates was convinced. He later explained, "If I had waited, somebody else would have done it. The timing was critical." With Allen by his side, he moved to Albuquerque, New Mexico, where MITS was based, and formally founded Microsoft. The early years were grueling. Gates was not yet the polished billionaire the world would later see. He was an intense, demanding, often abrasive young man. He wrote code, negotiated deals, and micromanaged every detail. Employees described him as brilliant but relentless, sometimes berating programmers for sloppy work. He was uncompromising, pushing his small team to work long hours and achieve perfection. But his vision was clear. Software would be the key to the future. While hardware companies competed in building machines, Gates insisted that it was the operating systems and programs that would define the industry.
His big break came in 1980, when IBM approached Microsoft to provide an operating system for its new personal computer. Gates didn't have one ready, but in a stroke of audacity, he negotiated the deal anyway. He then purchased an existing system, QDOS, for $50,000, rebranded it as MS-DOS, and licensed it to IBM. The brilliance of Gates' strategy was in the licensing model. Instead of selling MS-DOS outright, Microsoft retained the rights to license it to other computer manufacturers. This single decision transformed Microsoft into the dominant software provider of the PC revolution. As more companies built IBM-compatible machines, all running MS-DOS, Microsoft's software became the industry standard. Throughout the 1980s, Microsoft expanded rapidly. In 1985, it launched Windows, a graphical user interface built on top of MS-DOS, making computers more accessible to ordinary users. While the first version was clunky, it laid the foundation for what would become the most widely used operating system in the world. By the early 1990s, Windows had crushed competitors like Apple's Macintosh and IBM's OS/2, cementing Microsoft's dominance. Gates' rise was meteoric. In 1986, Microsoft went public, and at age 31, Gates became the youngest self-made billionaire in history. But wealth did not soften him. His reputation as a fierce competitor only grew. Rivals accused him of monopolistic practices, and Microsoft faced antitrust investigations in the 1990s. Gates defended his company with the same intensity he had shown since his teenage years, famously clashing with lawyers during depositions. To critics, he was ruthless. To admirers, he was simply brilliant at winning. By the turn of the millennium, Microsoft controlled more than 90% of the world's PC operating systems. Gates was the richest man in the world, with a fortune exceeding $100 billion at his peak. The boy who once tinkered with computers at Lakeside School had reshaped the digital age. Yet Gates' rise was not just about business. His vision changed how humans lived and worked. He put software into the hands of millions, democratized computing, and created tools that revolutionized communication, productivity, and information. The modern world, from offices to homes to classrooms, bore the imprint of his dream. Bill Gates' rise to fame was the story of audacity, timing, and relentless execution. He left Harvard as a dropout, dismissed by many, and within 2 decades became the architect of the PC revolution. The intensity that once made him seem abrasive had also made him unstoppable. He was not just rich, he was history's new face of technology.
For all his brilliance and achievements, Bill Gates' rise was not without shadows. The boy who once seemed awkward and bookish grew into a business leader admired for vision, but also feared for his ruthlessness. Behind Microsoft's dazzling success lay controversies, battles, and personal costs that revealed the darker side of Gates' empire. From the earliest days of Microsoft, Gates was notorious for his intensity. He demanded perfection from his employees, often pushing them to exhaustion. Former colleagues described him as brilliant but merciless, with a habit of grilling programmers late into the night, pacing the office and demanding answers to complex problems on the spot. Some admired his passion, others felt crushed by it. For Gates, building Microsoft was a mission, and he tolerated nothing less than total commitment. But the greatest shadow came from Microsoft's dominance. By the 1990s, with Windows and Office installed on nearly every personal computer, critics accused the company of using its market power unfairly. Rivals claimed Microsoft bundled its software in ways that crushed competition. The most famous example was the battle with Netscape in the mid-1990s, when Microsoft used its control of Windows to promote Internet Explorer, effectively driving Netscape out of the market. These practices attracted the attention of governments. In 1998, the U.S. Department of Justice filed a landmark antitrust case against Microsoft, accusing it of monopolistic behavior. The trial was dramatic.
Gates, once celebrated as a tech visionary, appeared defensive and combative in video depositions, often dodging questions with clipped, evasive answers. The court eventually ruled that Microsoft had abused its monopoly power, a decision that nearly resulted in the company being broken up. Though a settlement allowed Microsoft to survive intact, Gates's reputation suffered. To many, he became the embodiment of corporate greed in the tech industry. Beyond legal battles, Gates faced criticism for stifling innovation. Competitors argued that Microsoft's dominance left little room for creativity in the software market. The company's aggressive tactics created fear in smaller startups, who often avoided competing directly with Microsoft. Ironically, the man who once dreamed of empowering people with computers was now seen as the gatekeeper, using power to protect his empire. Gates's personal life, too, carried its struggles. His obsessive focus on work often left little time for balance. Colleagues recalled him working marathon weeks, sometimes sleeping in his office. His marriage to Melinda French Gates, which began in 1994, was tested by his relentless pace. Decades later, their relationship would collapse publicly, with their 2021 divorce ending one of the world's most high-profile philanthropic partnerships. Reports suggested strains had long existed, with Gates's intensity and controversies sometimes weighing heavily on his family. Even his philanthropy, which later defined much of his legacy, was not immune to skepticism. Critics argued that the sheer size of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation gave him disproportionate influence over global health and education policy. Some questioned whether unelected billionaires should wield such power, no matter how noble their intentions. Others pointed to missteps, such as failed education initiatives, as proof that money alone could not solve complex social problems. Another shadow emerged from Gates's personal associations. In the years after he stepped down from Microsoft's daily operations, scrutiny fell on his connections with controversial figures, most notably Jeffrey Epstein. Though Gates denied any close relationship, his meetings with Epstein after the financier's conviction for sex crimes raised uncomfortable questions and damaged his carefully cultivated public image. But perhaps the darkest aspect of Gates's journey was the cost of his success. The boy who once loved nothing more than solving puzzles and reading books had, by his 30s, become one of the most powerful and polarizing figures in business. To some, he was a genius who changed the world. To others, he was a monopolist who crushed competition and reaped vast fortunes in the process. Bill Gates' story is not one of pure triumph, but of paradox. His brilliance built an empire that revolutionized the world, but his methods left scars on competitors, on employees, and even on his own image. The same relentless drive that made him successful also made him feared. The dark side of Bill Gates reminds us that greatness is never simple. It comes with ambition, mistakes, and consequences. And it raises the question, can one truly change the world without leaving shadows behind? By the mid-1990s, Bill Gates had become more than a successful entrepreneur. He was a symbol of the digital revolution. Microsoft was no longer just a software company. It was the backbone of personal computing worldwide. Windows was installed on more than 90% of all PCs. Microsoft Office had become the global standard for productivity, and Gates himself was the undisputed king of technology. In 1995, Gates released his book, The Road Ahead, outlining his vision of the future shaped by the internet. Though Microsoft had initially underestimated the web, Gates pivoted quickly, steering the company into online services and ensuring it remained dominant. His uncanny ability to recognize shifts in technology and adapt swiftly reinforced his reputation as one of the greatest strategic minds in business. Financially, his rise was unmatched. In 1995, at just 39 years old, Bill Gates became the richest person in the world, a title he would hold for most of the next 2 decades. His net worth soared past $100 billion by 1999, making him the first centibillionaire in modern history. Headlines across the world marveled at the boy wonder, who had dropped out of Harvard and built a fortune larger than most countries' economies. Microsoft's dominance reached its climax with the launch of Windows 95. The product release was a cultural event, complete with global advertising campaigns and massive midnight lines at electronics stores. The software introduced features that would define personal computing for years: the start button, taskbar, and plug-and-play functionality. It wasn't just a technological upgrade, it was a social phenomenon. The launch generated $250 million in sales within the first month, cementing Microsoft as the unrivaled leader of the industry. But Gates' influence extended far beyond technology. He became a household name, his bespectacled face appearing on magazine covers and late-night television. For a man once described as socially awkward and shy, he had become a cultural icon, the embodiment of geek power. His story inspired millions of young entrepreneurs to believe that they too could change the world with code and creativity. The peak of Gates' influence was not only his wealth or Microsoft's dominance, but the sense that he was shaping the very trajectory of human progress. He was at the center of the digital revolution, a force driving the shift from typewriters to computers, from isolated offices to a connected world. Governments, businesses, and ordinary citizens alike depended on the tools his company created. Yet even at the height of his triumph, the shadows of controversy remained. The antitrust battles of the late 1990s tarnished Microsoft's image, casting Gates as a monopolist. Still, his power and the wealth were undeniable. By the turn of the millennium, Bill Gates was simultaneously the most admired and most criticized businessman alive, a paradox that only underscored his influence. The climax of Bill Gates' journey was this: the once bookish boy from Seattle, dismissed as a nerd, had arisen to become the richest man on earth and the architect of a new digital age. Microsoft's software ran the world's computers. His fortune reshaped the meaning of wealth, and his vision defined the future. For a time, it seemed nothing could stop him. Gates had reached the summit, and the view was breathtaking.
Bill Gates' legacy is not defined solely by the empire he built at Microsoft, but by the way he reinvented himself from the world's richest man into one of its most influential philanthropists. His story is a testament to brilliance, ambition, and the ability to evolve from ruthless competitor to global humanitarian. At the core of his legacy is the democratization of technology. Gates' vision of a computer on every desk and in every home seemed audacious in the 1970s. Yet by the early 2000s, it had become reality. Through Microsoft software, millions gained access to computing power that transformed how the world worked, communicated, and lived. The modern digital economy, from spreadsheets to emails to personal computing, bears his imprint. But Gates' legacy is not confined to technology. In 2000, he and his then-wife, Melinda Gates, founded the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which has since become the largest private charitable foundation in the world. With an endowment worth tens of billions of dollars, the foundation focused on global health, poverty reduction, and education. It has funded vaccines, helped combat malaria, and supported initiatives to eradicate polio. For Gates, philanthropy was not an afterthought, but a second career, pursued with the same intensity and data-driven focus he once applied to software. One of the defining elements of his legacy is his belief in measurable impact. Gates applied the logic of business to charity, emphasizing evidence, research, and accountability. He popularized the concept of philanthropic capitalism, using wealth not just to give, but to solve problems systematically. His approach inspired a new generation of billionaires to pledge their fortunes, including through the Giving Pledge, which he co-founded with Warren Buffett. Yet his legacy is not without complexity. Critics argue that the Gates Foundation wields too much influence over global health and education policy, concentrating decision-making power in the hands of a billionaire. Others question the effectiveness of some initiatives, pointing out failures in U.S. education reform. Still, few deny that his wealth has saved millions of lives, particularly through funding vaccines and medical research in developing countries.
Personally, Gates' life also carries contradictions. Once accused of monopolistic practices at Microsoft, he later became a symbol of generosity and global responsibility. The same man who was portrayed as a corporate villain in the 1990s is now often described as a humanitarian visionary. His 2021 divorce from Melinda French Gates revealed challenges in his personal life and added nuance to his public image, but it did little to a racist philanthropic legacy. What lessons can we take from Bill Gates' journey? Curiosity fuels success. His obsession with computers as a boy turned into the foundation of a trillion-dollar industry. Timing matters. Gates' ability to seize the Altair and IBM opportunities shows that vision must meet execution at the right moment. Relentless focus wins. His intensity and competitiveness, while controversial, drove Microsoft to global dominance. Wealth is responsibility. Gates chose to spend much of his fortune on solving humanity's biggest problems, proving that success can extend beyond personal gain. Reinvention is power. He transformed his identity from tech mogul to philanthropist, showing that legacy is not fixed, but evolving. Ultimately, Bill Gates' story is the story of modern progress, how technology reshaped the world, and how one man used his fortune not just to amass power, but to confront poverty and disease. His legacy is not perfect, but it is profound. He gave the world software that defined an era, and then committed his life to giving back. Bill Gates' life reminds us that greatness is not only in what you build, but in what you choose to give.
The story of Bill Gates is more than the rise of a tech billionaire. It is a story of a boy who loved books and computers, who turned obsession into innovation, and who transformed immense wealth into a force for global good. From building Microsoft into a software empire, to dedicating his fortune to fighting disease and poverty, Gates reminds us that true success is not only about what you create, but what you give back. But Gates' journey is only one among many. The world's most influential billionaires each carry stories of resilience, vision, and lessons that can inspire us all. If Bill Gates' life has shown you the power of curiosity, focus, and reinvention, imagine what you could discover from the journeys of others. Subscribe to Billionaire Secrets and join us as we explore the hidden truths behind the world's most powerful entrepreneurs. And don't just listen. Share your thoughts in the comments. Which lesson from Bill Gates' journey resonates with you most? Your words may inspire someone else to take the first step toward their own extraordinary story.